Welcome to the Poetry Fix on Radio Free Hillsdale 101.7 FM. I'm your host, Erika Kyba, bringing you your weekly fix of poetry from across time. Today we're reading Coleridge's Kubla Khan. On your first read of this bizarre psychedelic poem, you might be tempted to ask, what is this even about? But let me warn you right off the bat, that's the wrong question. Let's talk about Coleridge's approach to poetry. In his Biographia Literaria, Coleridge submits that the point of poetry is to engage your senses and give you imaginative impressions. In this poem especially, the imagination trumps understanding. Kubla Khan reads like a fairy tale. We have the enchanted lands, mentions of demon lovers, prophecies, and the mysterious Kubla himself, the Mongolian lord that Marco Polo reported meeting in his travels and described as a lord of lords. But even though we sense that there's a story here, Coleridge prevents us from catching more than a glimpse of it. He subtitles this poem, A Vision in a Dream, a Fragment. In other words, narrative gaps are part of the point. Ideally, they're going to engage your sense of wonder, of curiosity, and maybe even prompt you to imagine in the gaps yourself. So what does Coleridge give us to go on? Well, the poem begins with the titular Kubla Khan decreeing a stately pleasure dome. Stately conveys a sense of order and stability, and dome adds to that. Think about the structure of a dome. It curves, it holds everything within itself in a sort of secure bulb. Basilicas often have domes, so the pleasure dome could be sacred. The human head was archaically described as a dome as well, which is some food for thought. Again, we want to stay with the associations and senses that these words give us before we begin to ask about the meaning. So we start with the pleasure dome, but then we get into the landscape of the poem. Coleridge situates the dome next to fertile fields, ancient forests, gardens, and towers, all of which radiate fertility, prosperity, and security. This is just the place for a pleasure dome. We're surrounded by paradisical greenery. We have all the fields to feed us that we could possibly wish for, and we have walls and towers girdling us round, keeping us safe from any possible threat. But that's not all. Coleridge points out that in the midst of this, there's a sacred river called Alf, which runs through caverns measureless to man. Now, this may certainly pique your interest, having a sense of fathomless, unexplored caves beneath you, but it's also a little off-putting. We might be surrounded by abundance and fruitful land, but we cannot get away from the sacred, and we cannot get away from the mysterious and uncontrollable. Beneath every patch of fertile ground, as it were, there's a cavern stretching beneath it, a sunless sea, the potential for chaos. So the first stanza sets us up with a tranquil, indolent image, with just a dash of unease. Now watch what happens as all hell breaks loose in the second stanza. And above all, pay attention to what's happening to the pleasure dome as it relates to its surroundings. With all that said, let's dive in. Kubla Khan, or A Vision in a Dream, a Fragment, by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, where Alf the sacred river ran, through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. So twice 5 miles of fertile ground, with walls and towers were girdled round, and there were gardens bright with sinuous rills, where blossomed many an incense-bearing tree, and here were forests ancient as the hills, enfolding sunny spots of greenery. But oh, that deep romantic chasm which slanted down the green hill athwart a cedarn cover, a savage place, as holy and enchanted, as ere beneath a waning moon was haunted by woman wailing for her demon lover, and from this chasm, with ceaseless turmoil seething, as if this earth in fast, thick pants were breathing, a mighty fountain momently was forced, amid whose swift, half-intermitted burst huge fragments vaulted like rebounding hail, or chaffy grain beneath the thresher's flail. And mid these dancing rocks at once and ever, it flung up momently the sacred river, 5 miles meandering with a mazy motion, through wood and dale the sacred river ran, then reached the caverns measureless to man, and sank in tumult to a lifeless ocean. And mid this tumult, Kubla heard from far ancestral voices, prophesying war. The shadow of the dome of pleasure floated midway on the waves, where was heard the mingled measure from the fountain and the caves. It was a miracle of rare device, a sunny pleasure dome with caves of ice. You've been listening to The Poetry Fix with Erika Kyba. If you enjoyed this episode, consider following The Poetry Fix on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts. And if you have any poems you want to see in a future episode, Email your suggestions to thepoetryfix@gmail.com. Join me next week and we'll be finishing out Kubla Khan.